Join us now for another special interview with famous author Harold Stevens. Rod McNeil reports.
The allure of Thailand ranges through its history and mystery to its cuisine and famous smiles. A place of adventure to captivate the traveller. This is the renowned Authors Lounge in Bangkok's famous Oriental Hotel. It's dedicated to great writers who've been guests here. People like Joseph Conrad, Rudyard Kipling and Somerset Maugham. Their works in particular greatly inspired a modest American public servant almost 60 years ago to transform his life into one of travel and adventure, not unlike a character in one of those classic novels. He is Harold Stevens. We met Steve, as he prefers, at his stately Bangkok home.
Let me show you around the place.
I like this estate, it's very nice, isn't it?
Oh, I love it here. It's a great place for a writer.
Some may say Steve sees the world through rose-colored glasses. Yet his wanderlust and manly wisdom have led others to describe him as a self-made philosopher.
This is the amazing thing, right in the middle of the city, and it's so quiet. And sometimes I feel like I'm off back in the jungle, so I'm not too far removed from it.
But for Steve, his ultimate discovery was the art of writing a great story. And what's the secret?
Describing. Writing to me is like an artist will paint a picture. I spend all of my time trying to describe something. When I'm on a SkyTrain, I see a pretty face over there. I say, how could I put this down? And what I started doing from a very early age is taking notes and describing situations as it happened. And I kept notes. I kept notes in China, which helped me when I wrote a book on China. I would try to capture conversations as I heard it, and I'd put them down. These were sketches, you know, it had nothing to do with anything. But I ended up with thousands and thousands of pages of written stuff. Some of it I even kept in Chinese, which I can't read today. It was phonetic Chinese and that. But it was just the idea of wanting to tell, wanting to explain and everything. And it sort of, it was hard. I mean, it was very, very difficult.
But did you find that Asia and all its mystery and all of its fascinating history also provided you with a reason to write?
Yes, precisely because very few people in the world, I'm talking about the Western world, know about Asia today.
So it wasn't the war, though, that brought you, and many others, of course, to Asia?
The war did, yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, it was the war. I ran off and joined the Marines. And then I ended up 3 months later on the Battle of Okinawa.
How old were you?
I was 16 when I sneaked into the Marines. Then I turned 17, and then I think I was 17 when I was in combat on Okinawa.
Well, did you ever stop and think this was not such a good idea?
No. I'll tell you no, because the war was on. We had our farm. We had a tragedy. The farm burned down. And my father had to go and work in the coal mines, and then I started when I was 15 in the coal mines. And then on my 16th birthday, I went to the steel mills, and this was hell. I mean, you know, and anything would have been better than that. It's amazing because in the Marines, it was the beginning of kind of cloak and dagger work that turned out to be the Foreign Service. But they were sending one group in 1948 to Siam. They called it Siam then, and I was picked. I was all set to come, and then they found out that I had lied. They said, "Are you ever arrested?" I was in a barroom fight when I came out of China back to the States, and they pulled me, and then it was too late. The detachment came here, and they sent me to Paris instead.
Steve, you managed to squeeze in a good education?
When I went to Paris with the Foreign Service, I became a bodyguard for the American ambassador, Jefferson Caffrey. And I traveled every place he went. And we were in southern France one time at a castle called Aigues-Mortes. And he said to me, Stevens, wouldn't you like to be me? And I said, oh, sir, I'm happy with my job. He says, nonsense. He said, you know, the only thing that separates you from me is an education. And I said, oh, sorry. And he convinced me then. So I went back to Paris. He relieved me a lot of my duty. I went to the Sorbonne, started taking classes, and then he gave me an appointment to Georgetown University. So I went in with a 9th grade education, so it was kind of difficult.
How did you get back to Thailand?
After I finished my university training and I was with the National Security Agency working in Washington, I hated it. I hated the government service, and I wanted to be free. So I quit. So I said, I'm coming back to Asia. So I went to the South Pacific, hitchhiked across the Pacific, and ended up in Singapore and then in Bangkok. And this was in 1959. And I had to do it then. I knew I had to go on. I went back to America, taught school for a while, made enough money to come back.
There are some great institutions in Bangkok. I think you've been associated with one from your early days here, the Oriental Hotel.
Oh, yes. Oh, from the very, very beginning. Of course, when I came here, the first time was 1961. It wasn't very much. People didn't talk about the Oriental. It was just this old building. And then it really got its boost in putting money into it during the Vietnam War. And then I came back in '65 and started writing for Thai International and the Bangkok Post. The Bamboo Bar was the liveliest bar in town. And this is where all the journalists met. So it was a real pulse beat. In fact, there were journalists there that were writing about the war that never had to go to the war. All they had to do was interview these people and get frontline stories and send them back. You know, Somerset Maugham captured it. Nobody has done anything like Somerset Maugham since. His collections of short stories portrayed Asia as it was. We get a lot of writers today, and they write about Pat Pong and the seedy part of life. Very few of them get into the real pulse beat, what makes Asia tick. And even though I've probably written over 4,000 stories on Asia, I find that I can tell better about Asia in fiction, because then I can say what I want and I'm not getting anybody into trouble. And it's a better form than the truth.
But fiction drawing on fact.
Drawing on fact. Well, a lot of times I do my fiction and then I put the real thing and then just change the names at the end. So.
The fact is, Harold Stevens tells a great story, and they keep coming in the second part next week.
Well, that's all for Destination Thailand today. Now we're going to leave you with some images from the 20th Phuket Kings Cup Regatta, headquarters right here on Carter Beach. And we'll have a very special report on that event next week. Bye for now.